Chapter 6. Preliminary Steps in Developing a Food Safety Plan for Human Food. Before building a food safety plan, organizing information is important. These preliminary steps involve gathering information about the products, processes, and facility operations to build a complete picture of the facility. This information is needed to identify potential hazards and preventive control measures when developing a food safety plan. These preliminary steps are not required by the preventive controls for human food regulation, but the information is needed to provide a sound basis for applying preventive controls principles in developing a food safety plan. They are also consistent with U.S. and internationally recognized principles for developing prevention-based food safety controls. A discussion of each of the 5 preliminary steps follows, with examples to illustrate the process. I like to say it this way: you should know every detail about everything you do all the time, from the boat to throat, farm to the fork, tied to the tongue, everything. Assembling a food safety team is an important step in building a food safety plan. Management commitment is extremely important to ensure that resources dedicated to this effort are appropriate. Effective food safety management not only protects the food, it also protects the business from the risk of a food safety incident or a regulatory noncompliance issue. To develop and implement an effective food safety plan, a budget, resources, and support for change management, potential changes in equipment, new procedures, etc. may be required. Without firm management commitment at all levels, it may be difficult to implement an effective food safety plan. Top management commitment to food safety sends a strong message to all personnel that the food safety system is vitally important to the company. Although one person may be able to analyze hazards and develop a food safety plan successfully, many companies find it helpful to build a food safety team. When only one person develops the food safety plan, some key points can be missed or misunderstood in the process. The team approach minimizes the risk of missing key points or misunderstanding aspects of the operation. It also encourages ownership of the plan, builds company involvement, and brings in different areas of expertise. At least one member of the food safety team should be a preventive controls qualified individual who has successfully completed this FDA-recognized food safety training curriculum or is otherwise qualified through job experience to develop a food safety plan. The preventive controls qualified individual does not have to be an employee of the facility, but it is beneficial for a facility to have at least one preventive controls qualified individual on staff. The team should consist of individuals with different specialties and experience with the facility's processes and procedures. The food safety team should include members who are directly involved with the plant's daily operations, and may include personnel from maintenance, production, including equipment experts, sanitation, quality assurance, engineering, purchasing, and laboratory, if applicable. These individuals develop the food safety plan under the oversight of a preventive controls qualified individual and verify ongoing implementation of the food safety system. The team members should be knowledgeable about food safety hazards and food safety principles. When issues arise that cannot be resolved internally, it may be necessary to enlist outside expertise. In small companies, the responsibility for writing the food safety plan may fall to one person. If it is possible to build a food safety team in a small company, employees knowledgeable of various functions, including owners, should be members of the food safety team. Universities, cooperative extension, consulting groups, and trade associations can provide additional assistance through model plans, published guidance, and, in some cases, personal assistance. In addition to writing and developing the food safety plan, the food safety team provides oversight of the implementation of the plan in the daily operations of the facility. This includes ensuring that appropriate people are trained to handle their required duties. Throughout the class, a fictional frozen omelet manufacturer, the E.G. Food Company, is used to provide an example. The above is a description of this fictitious company, with some information about how the organization operates. This description helps you visualize the operation. E.G. Food Company is a fictitious enterprise used as an example throughout this course. Company overview. E.g., food companies 150 employees produce egg-based products, including plain omelets, and cheese omelet biscuits. Product is made 5 days a week in one 8-hour production shift, followed by 4 hours for sanitation. Cleaning and sanitizing of all processing equipment is conducted per a master sanitation schedule, which also includes cleaning and sanitizing between different products if needed for allergen control. Municipal water, which is treated and tested per EPA requirements by the city, is used throughout the facility. The company practices hygienic zoning to prevent cooked product exposure to environmental pathogens, and employees working in the high hygiene areas wear color-coded smocks and dedicated footwear. These employees are instructed on proper hand washing procedures, glove use, and importance of zoning. The full example of E.g. Food Company is in Appendix 3, which is attached in the chapter Resources. E.g. Food Company's food safety team consists of 4 employees: the plant manager, the quality assurance manager, the production supervisor, and the sanitation supervisor. All have undergone food safety training and use references such as FDA guidance documents. Additionally, they use an external food safety consultant to assist with development of the food safety plan, annual review, and, as needed, for changes. They also use recommendations from their chemical supplier on appropriate cleaning and sanitation compounds and procedures for their sanitation controls. A description of their food safety team and their food safety plan is above. This is optional. Appendix 3, Food Safety Plan Example, contains the full food safety plan, which will be used for examples throughout the course. Understanding basic information about a product and how it is distributed is needed to determine if specific controls are important to ensure the safety of the product throughout the distribution cycle. The food safety team should describe the products, the type of packaging, shelf life expectations, and the method of storage and distribution. Information on factors that can influence growth of pathogens, e.g., pH, water activity, preservatives, if any, is useful for products that have intrinsic properties that control potential growth of bacteria. It is important to understand these elements to identify the potential food safety hazards that need to be addressed by preventive controls. A product description form has been developed to help record this information and is located in Appendix 2 for your review and use. Other formats may be used, rows may be deleted, and a simple paragraph format is also acceptable. The preventive controls for human food regulation does not mandate capturing this information or the format. However, the information contained in this form can be useful to provide an overview of the product to an independent auditor, e.g., when an audit is required by a customer or a food safety consultant who is helping you to develop a food safety plan. The information may also be useful in the event that a recall is needed. FDA guidance on recall submission recommends providing product information such as the product name and number, and description such as the form, intended use, expected shelf life, if perishable, and the type of packaging. See Chapter 15, Recall Plan for more information. Intended use of the product refers to its anticipated use by end users, e.g., other food processors, consumers, etc. Most foods are likely to be intended for the general public. The food safety team should consider these questions. 1. What is the intended use of the product? E.g., retail, food service, further processing. 2. What is the potential for mishandling and unintended use? 3. What handling and preparation procedures are required of the end users? For example, is the product ready to eat, or does it require further preparation such as reheating, cooking, etc.? 4. Who are the intended consumers of the product? 5. Is the product intended specifically for use by immune-compromised individuals or other susceptible groups? Answering these questions provides valuable information for the food safety team as they proceed to the hazard analysis. See Chapter 8, Hazard Analysis and Preventive Controls Determination. The intended consumers may be the general public or a particular segment of the population that is more sensitive to certain hazards. These at-risk groups include Infants and young children. Infants and young children do not have a fully developed immune system and are more likely to develop certain types of foodborne illnesses such as infections by bacterial pathogens. Choking hazards from the food itself or packaging material, e.g., small caps, may also be a concern for this group. Elderly persons. As people age, their immune systems naturally weaken. Elderly persons tend to be more susceptible to infections by foodborne bacterial pathogens than the general population, and illnesses may also be more severe. Pregnant women. Some pathogens, such as Listeria monocytogenes and Toxoplasma gondii, are particularly harmful to the developing fetus. Foods targeted specifically toward pregnant women should control potential sources of these pathogens. Immunosuppressed persons. Other factors can weaken the immune system. For example, persons who are HIV positive, have had organ transplants, are undergoing cancer chemotherapy, or have taken other immunosuppressive drug therapies are particularly susceptible to developing illnesses caused by foodborne pathogens. As modern medical treatments improve, it is important to consider that a relatively large percentage of the population fits in this category. While food targeted to the general population may be consumed by these vulnerable groups, food specifically designed for susceptible populations, e.g., for hospitals, nursing homes, may require more stringent controls because most of these food will be consumed by an at-risk population. The product description, distribution, consumers, and intended use form described below and located in Appendix 2 can be used to record this information. This information is important to assure an accurate hazard analysis, but is not required in the rule. This is an example of a product description that will be used to illustrate the progressive development of a food safety plan for omelet products produced by the fictitious E.G. Food Company. Note that in this example, the potential for abuse is identified in the intended use section. A flow diagram provides an important visual tool that the food safety team can use to describe the process. When developing a process flow diagram, it is important to include all the process steps within the facility's control, from receiving through final product storage, including rework and diverted byproduct, if applicable. Each process step should be considered in detail and the information expanded to include all relevant process information. Information may include all ingredients and packaging used, where raw materials, ingredients, and intermediate products enter the flow, the sequence and interaction of all steps in the operation, where product reworking and recycling take place in the process, where product is diverted to waste, if applicable. The flow diagram for the E.G. Food Company omelet example appears on the next slide. This is from the Food Safety Plan in Appendix 3 attached in the chapter Resources. Notice how all the inputs are separated and tracked to the finished product all the way to distribution. Be sure to be thorough and concise here. A written process description is also useful to explain what happens at each of the process steps and can contain more detail than the flow diagram. This description can be used as a working reference for the development of the food safety plan. You may already have other documents that contain similar information, such as product specifications, recipes, or work instructions that can be used in place of the description illustrated in this chapter. It is important to know what occurs at each process step. For example, information such as the maximum length of time that the product could be exposed to unrefrigerated temperatures, the maximum room air temperature, or the internal product temperature after a process may impact food safety. Thus, it is important to know for an accurate hazard analysis. The beginning of the process description from the E.G. Food Company example appears in the slide. See Appendix 3, Food Safety Plan for the full process description. The steps in the flow diagram are used to organize the hazard analysis, which is discussed in Chapter 8, Hazard Analysis and Preventive Controls Determination. Since the accuracy of the process flow is critical to conduct a hazard analysis, the steps outlined in the chart must be verified at the plant. If a step is missed, a food safety hazard requiring a preventive control may be missed. Include every handling, processing, and holding step for the product, as well as ingredients and packaging. The food safety team should walk through the facility and make any changes required in the flow diagram. At the same time, the team should make observations related to sanitation, potential for cross-contamination or allergen cross-contact, and potential harborages or introduction points for environmental pathogens. The walkthrough allows each team member to gain an overall picture of how the product is made. It may be helpful to invite additional plant personnel to review the diagram during the walkthrough. Many times operators can identify issues that may be overlooked by management or the food safety team. The complete, verified flow diagram should be retained and periodically evaluated as a food safety record and part of the food safety plan. A signature is usually used to indicate that the flow diagram has been verified. Food safety plans are dynamic and must be updated to reflect any changes in process or food safety considerations. Therefore, any significant changes to the process must be accurately reflected in the product flow diagram, and the food safety team must evaluate if these changes have an impact on the hazard analysis and preventive controls in place. It is important to have the right people in place and information available on the ingredients, packaging, and processes used before applying preventive controls principles to develop a food safety plan. Preliminary steps include 1. Assembling the food safety team and ensuring that they have management commitment and adequate training to perform an accurate assessment of the food safety hazards that exist for the products being produced. 2. Preparing an accurate description of the product and its distribution to understand the characteristics of the product and ensure that potential hazards are not overlooked. 3. Identifying the intended use and consumers to ensure that preventive controls used will protect the safety of consumers during intended use and acknowledge potential misuse of the product. 4. Creating a process flow diagram that provides the organizational framework for conducting the hazard analysis, which identifies preventive controls to prevent food safety risks for the consuming public, and 5. Verifying the flow diagram and operational conditions to avoid overlooking sources of potential hazards. If a facility produces more than one product and several food safety plans are needed, it is recommended that the food safety team keep its task simple by only attempting to develop one plan at a time. The team could have the first plan reviewed by a third party before addressing additional plans. This can help to ensure they correctly identify the hazards requiring preventive controls. Great job! Make sure you check out all the chapter resources. And please complete all activities and exercises. See you in Chapter 7.